Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Brian of Hudson County. I'm glad that you could join us again today for another TTRPG Talk. This series takes a look at tabletop role-playing games and related materials, makes some suggestions for your own games, and takes a look at some of my own materials. Today, we're going to be continuing our look at different types of character creation systems that attempt to make the system more randomized, interactive, or otherwise gamify the entire process. The system we're going to be taking a look at today is actually one of the very first systems that I ever learned how to play as a role playing game, and is probably one of the most iconic when it comes to what we were termed earlier as life path systems. By which I mean basically we are creating your character first by creating some initial fundamentals, and then you basically advancing your character through their personal history up to the point where the game starts. Um, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the Traveler. Specifically, we're going to be using the core rulebook for the sort of Mongoose second edition version of Traveler that was updated in 2022. My only real experience with Traveler has been with playing like the classic little black books. So definitely not this version. There are probably going to be some things that are different here from what I'm used to. When we encounter them, we will learn together. One thing that, however, very nicely I found that will help us out a whole lot because admittedly this process is long and involved and involves taking a lot of notes. And that is, I managed to find um, this Mongoose Traveler 2E character sheet that has lots of different tabs and pages on Google Docs that was originally created by uh, Jay Brennan. I will put a link to the original version of this in the description down below so that you can take a look at this as well. This is ridiculously extensive. This is perfect for the person who takes a lot of notes. Obviously, we're not going to be filling most of this. We are going to be starting on this page, though, which has our characteristics in it, because one of the first things we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting our ability scores, or a universal personality profile. So when you start off your character creation in this particular version of the manual, at least you'll be turning to page 8 to the chapter titled Traveler Creation. Go figure. Just a reminder for those of you who have never played Traveler before, Traveler is based entirely on D6s, at least mostly on D6s. Um, so these are the only dice we're going to be using during the course of this process. Whenever you see something that says 2D or 3D or whatever, you're going to be rolling these. One thing that is important to note is that in this particular version of Traveler, I noticed that they have added some text to heavily suggest that, unlike in some other role-playing games, that you do not actually create and original Traveler, that you do not actually create your character ahead of time, and instead you actually create your character together with the group. One of the reasons why they added this is because they added some rules that increase the amount of connections in between your travelers. Um, so there is that. A second reason why is I believe in this version of the game, your character cannot die during character creation process, which was something that did happen to me on occasion when creating a character in the original system. So maybe one day we'll have to go back and make a character in that version and see if maybe our character will end up dying again. Whenever you're creating a character in Traveler, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to be rolling or using a point buy system to decide on what characteristics your character is going to have. Pretty similar to a lot of other role playing games, you will have three physical characteristics or ability scores and three mental ability scores, characteristics. Here are physical characteristics are strength, dexterity, and endurance, which of course is similar to strength, dexterity, and constitution. Um, Except it also includes some elements of wisdom or willpower. And then your mental characteristics are going to end up being intellect, intelligence essentially, and mental acuity. Education, which is, of course, your learning and experience, and then social standing, as opposed to a charisma score. And we are going to be rolling 2d6 for each of those. So I'm going to go ahead and roll those real quick. Go ahead and go down the list. Use over here in our score. And
And welcome back, everyone. Alrighty, so we have gone ahead and added in our characteristics. So as you can go ahead and see here, my character does not have a very high strength score. We only have a strength score of 5, which gives us a -1. A dice modifier for any rolls that we might do that would involve strength. Dexterity, endurance, intelligence, they're roughly about like, average. We have a slightly higher education, and our social standing is 12. In the Traveler, we do have a basic concept where there is like an imperium that kind of rules over most of the galaxy. And in this Imperium, there are obviously nobility. So oftentimes, if you have a really, really high social standing, that generally suggests that you're some sort of nobility potentially. Or it's possible that you might have some uh, like celebrity standing of some sort or another. So we already went ahead and did step one up here where we took a look at our characteristics. In the next element, what we would normally do is we would choose background skills and a home world that presumably would also affect the background skills that we get. For a home world, what I would generally suggest if you're creating your own characters, you don't actually pick a world unless your game is already has significant elements of the universe built up. Um, Instead, what I would do is I would just pick a feeling or a theme. Like, did you grow up on a space station? Or did you grow up in a habitat on a hostile world? Did you grow up on a garden planet? Did you just grow up drifting for your whole life? There could be lots of different things, all of which could potentially impact your starting skills. So, the starting skills, the background skills that you get are you normally get 3 plus whatever your education dice modifier is, which ours is 1. So we get 4 starting skills. So I already went ahead and decided that our character is probably going to be from an agricultural focused world. Presumably, our family, based on our education and social standing, is uh, some form of nobility on this world, or high administration or something. Maybe our parent is like, I don't know, the president or highly involved in government or something along those lines. All skills start at level 0, um, and then go up from there. Certain skills, the base level skill starts at 0, and then when you add other ones, when you add specializations, then that's where your levels actually go into. So let me give you an example. One of the ones I decided that it would make sense for us to have. So I've added administration and carouse. Carouse is basically like how good you are at like getting information and things out of people while you're partying or drinking people under the table, that kind of stuff. um, uh, Here's a good one. So languages, right? I decided to give us languages 0, and you'll notice that in the drop-down menu you can only put 0. Language is 0. You're always assumed that you know whatever your native language is, and you can read it and write it and everything, and that's fine. Um, if you have a languages level of 0, that means that you know basic phrases and things like that, and pretty much every other language out there, unless it's really obscure. And then if we were to, like, let's say, learn Anglic, right, then we would add levels in Anglic, which means that we'd be really skilled at speaking Anglic, but we wouldn't know very much of, like, for example, Zdel, that kind of concept. So yeah, so far we've picked administration, carouse, languages, and I also decided to go ahead and add science. So we have a science level of 0. This is another one where obviously we have lots of different types of science. My character has a basic knowledge of science in general, of lots of different scientific techniques and stuff, but no specialized skills. Another idea with having a 0 as opposed to an actual skill rank is that having a 0 in a skill means that you have a basic concept, a learned concept on how this stuff works, but you haven't actually gained very much practical experience. So let's hop back over here to the PDF. As you can see, our next step, I'm going to go ahead and show you this again. So far we have, and I know you can't read this, you're going to have to read it on the screen, but so far we have done our characteristics and our background. Now we have a choice. We could either go into like a one form or another of pre-career education. This is not something that existed in the versions of Traveler that I'm most familiar with, so this is something new to me. So I apologize ahead of time if I make some pretty serious mistakes. Or we could actually join a career. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of our options when it comes to that. So when it comes to pre-career education and Traveler, we basically have two options. We could potentially go to university, or we could go to a military academy. Whenever you are seeking to go into a pre-career education, which basically takes the place of term one or the first 4 years of your life after you turn 18, or go into a regular career, normally you have to roll to see if you manage to get in. Certain ones, like for example, the noble career, you can actually just get into it automatically if you have stats of a certain height, a certain value. But normally you have to actually roll a check, in which, of course, you would roll 2d6 and you add in whatever modifiers you have on that particular stat. Based on the fact that my character does not necessarily have a super high intelligence or endurance, I am not going to try to get in the military academy. However, instead, we will try to get into university. So again, this is going to take the place of term one in our normal career path. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and roll that. Normally, we rolled, so I rolled a 5, and normally that would mean that we wouldn't get in. But fortunately, we do have a +1 for our education, which bumps us up to 6, which would get us in. And also, actually, we get an extra +1 modifier because we have a social standing of 9 or higher. So the way that this one in particular will work is that we get some base starting skills. So it says that we get to choose a level 0 and a level 1 skill from this following list down here. Basically, this is going to be like our major and our minor. So I think what we'll do is, yeah, based on our stats, I think what we'll do is we'll put advocate at 1, because that's one of them. And for the other one, we'll do maybe astrogation, because I'm thinking I might want to try to get into the Navy after we go through college, because we actually get the possibility of doing a commission roll before we actually join. Um, Yeah, and then we also get +1 to our education score, so a 10. There we go. All right. Basically, what we're doing is we're doing this loop here, which is your term loop. So for your term, you start your term, add your starting skills and everything. Uh, Roll for survival. You don't have to do that in college. Roll for the event that you get. Roll for whether or not you advance, in this case, graduate. And then basically, you would either then decide if you're going to continue doing this thing or if you're going to muster out and switch off to something else or just say, okay, my character's done now. As I mentioned, we're going to need to roll an event next. Basically, this is going to be the major, sorry, this is going to be the major thing that's basically happened to us during the course of our college, the big defining thing that happened to us during our college career. And I rolled an 11. Oh, here we go. Oh boy. So it says, war comes and a wide-ranging draft is instigated. You can either flee and become a drifter next term, or you can be drafted, in which case you roll to decide which branch of the armed forces you get put into. Either way, you do not graduate this term. However, if you roll a social standing of +9 or higher, then you get enough strings pooled to avoid the draft and complete your education. You may attempt graduation normally and you are not drafted. Well, we have a really high social score, a really high social standing, so I guess I'll go ahead and roll that. And I rolled a 7 plus 2, that gives us 9. So that was close, but um, essentially what that means is that we dodged the draft. We dodged the draft by using our social standing, and yeah. So yeah, now I kind of feel like I kind of have to join the Navy in the next round, just make up for that. Oh
So
goodness.
now we
All
need to
right.
roll to see if we graduate. This is an intelligence roll of a 6 or better. If we roll a 10 or better, then that means we graduate with honors. So there is that. So here we go. All right, and I rolled a 9. So that means we got to graduate, but didn't quite get the honors roll. So because we did that, the both of the skills that we chose before are increased by 1 level. So our advocacy increases to 2, and our astrogation increases to 1. We get another +1 to our education score. All right, so basically what this means is if we decide to join the Navy, we get a +1 modifier to roll, and then we also get to go ahead and do a commission roll before we even start the career. At which point we'll start at officer +1 instead of starting at enlisted 0, which is awesome. All right, so we'll go ahead and do that. This is a list, a table basically of all the different careers that, at least in base uh, Traveler Mongoose Second Edition, you can potentially get. And then, of course, there are specific assignments to each of those, which have some slightly different flavor as to like skills you can pick up, or as you can see, different types of survival or advancement. So the first thing we need to do is we need to roll an intelligence score of a 6 or better. Remember, we also get a +1 to this roll for our modifier that we got because we went to university. So, oof, good grief. I rolled a 5, but fortunately we get +1 for university, so that means we actually got a 6, which is just enough. We just squeaked by getting into the Navy. Whew, that was very close. I think it would make sense for our character. We've already learned astrogation, but we don't have a very high dexterity score. I think based on what's here, it makes sense for us to get an assignment as an engineer or a gunner. So we'll do that. Oh, right. We need to also roll. It's a special thing for this time because we did go to university. We need to roll to see if we get a commission. So everyone remember this character sheet actually has a nice element here that lets us write out our life path. So I'm going to go ahead real quick and put in our time at university. So university, of course, was our first term. That means right now our character is currently 22, sorry. So as I mentioned, we're already going to be joining the Navy for our second term. Our assignment is engineering. So we need to go ahead and roll for our commission. So I will go ahead and roll that. And we got a plus our mods, we got a 10. So we did get a commission. So our current rank is Officer 1. Here we go. So whenever you advance to a certain rank, sometimes you get a skill or bonus automatically when you hit it. So for example, if I was an enlisted crewman and I managed to get an advancement and I upgraded to an able sea hand or space hand, I would automatically get mechanic 1. It wouldn't matter if I had mechanic 0 or if I didn't know any mechanic at all, I would automatically learn mechanic 1. We started off as an ensign, so we automatically get melee blade 1. So let's hop over here and add that to our character sheet real quick. So we have melee at 0, blade at 1. There we go. The first thing we technically are supposed to do before we start, our first step in that sort of circle that we had, is that we need, when we start a term, is we need to roll on the skill tables. So if I flip over here to the Navy, normally what we would do is pick which table we're going to roll on, roll a d6, and then we get either a level in that skill or a +1 in that attribute if we went for personal development. Because this is my first, normally what you do is you get a 0 in all of the skills related to your service. So I think we're supposed to get a 0 in all of these for your first career. And then the next career after that, you only get one of them at 0 to start. So I might be doing this wrong. If I am, I apologize. Let's see. All right, so we already did our assignment. So now we need to roll our survival. So since we decided that we were going to be an engineer, we need to roll an intelligence check and get a 6 or better. And
Oh, good God, we rolled a 12. So yeah, we definitely don't need to worry about that. Um, we definitely survived. Um, we don't need to worry about commission because we already got a commission. So we can't. I'll go ahead and mark it, but we can't actually do that one. All right. Now we need to roll our event. So if events for each of the professions are different, they have each of those tables here. Again, we're going to roll a 2d12 and we will see what happens. I rolled 3, which says you join a gambling circle on board, gain Gambler 1 or Deception 1. If you wish, throw Gambler 8, throw a Gambler roll of 8 or better. If you succeed, you gain an extra benefit roll from this career, but if you fail, you lose a benefit roll from this career. Benefit rolls are for when you muster out. You gain certain benefits when you retire, essentially, from a particular career. Muster out. Um, I'm not going to do Gambler. I'm going to, based on the way our character is shaping out, I think it would be better if I gave them Deception 1, because we've got a lot of social stuff going on here. And I'm not going to do the Gambler roll, because if we did, then because I don't have any skill in Gambler at all, I'd have like a -3 modifier. And that would be really bad. It would basically make it impossible. Let's see. Oh, yes, we need to roll our advancement. So, advancement for the engineer gunner assignment is an education of +6. Remember, we have a +1 bonus for this. So, I rolled a 6 +1 means we got a 7. So, we definitely advanced. So that means we're actually at rank 02, which means we're a sub lieutenant. Yes, that means we're a sub lieutenant, which means we get melee +1. Or sorry, and leadership +1. Alrighty, so we're gonna try to see if we manage to survive into our next term in the Navy. So here we go. Oh no, we rolled a 4. If I remember correctly, that's not high enough. No, it's not. All right. Anyway, okay, so now you're going to learn what we do when you don't make a survival roll. So when you don't get a survival roll, uh, you end up having to roll a mishap. Usually, mishaps are end up with you getting kicked out. So I rolled a 6. So that means we got injured. All right, so now we need to go to the injury table, which I believe. Here we go. Oh, sorry. Here's the injury table. So basically, whenever your character gets hurt, you have to roll in the injury table. The lower your roll, the worse it's going to be. So, for example, if you rolled a 1, basically you almost died. So hopefully we don't get too badly hurt. We will have to see. I rolled a 4. 4 says that you are scarred. You are scarred and injured. Reduce any physical characteristic by 2. I think we'll put that -2 into our endurance. Now, normally, we would actually be able, potentially, to basically say, oh, well, I went to the hospital and then just start the game with some debt, medical debt, basically. But I don't think I want to do that. All right, so obviously, we cannot be in the Navy anymore. So instead, what we need to do is we need to muster out. Whenever you muster out, you roll here for benefits. Normally, you roll once on the benefit chart for every term that you were in that particular career, plus, there we go, plus you get a certain number of bonus rolls based on your rank, which I believe that is over here. Here it is. Okay, yeah. So for example, a 1 or a 2, you get a bonus roll. 2 or 3, you get 2 bonus rolls. 5 or 6, you get you roll a 3, plus you get +1 to your benefit roll, because obviously the higher you roll on this chart, the better. As you can see here, you get higher in the cash or you get benefits. So either you get physical benefits or you roll higher on a cash thingy. I think so. We only get one because we only did one full term because we ended up mustering out before this term was over. And we get a +1 because we're at rank 2. So I'll roll once on cash and once on benefits. So for cash, I just rolled a 5, so that means we get 20,000 credits. And then I rolled a 1 on the benefits table, which says a personal vehicle or a ship share. Whenever you get ships later on, basically ship shares give you a certain amount of money towards buying or renting a ship, basically putting a mortgage. I think of it as being like credit that you can put towards a ship. I'll just stick it right here just to have some place to put it. Ship share. There we go. Well, now we're not in the Navy anymore, so now we need to decide what our next position is going to be. So, I think it would make sense for us just to hop into Noble. Let's go with Administrator. That fits our backstory better. Yeah, we're going to, and as you can see over here, we automatically qualify if our social standing is 10 or higher, because we are literally a Noble. So, yay, we don't even have to roll to see that we get in. Over here, we become a Noble. Let's go ahead and roll our skill. What we'll do is we'll roll on the, let's do the admin table. And I rolled a 4, so that means we get a rank in diplomat, which I don't think we have yet. So yes, we do not have that. So we now have diplomat 0. Now we need to roll to see if we survive. Survival roll, this is going to be really bad if we don't make this one too. Survival roll would be an intelligence check of 4 or higher. We rolled a 7, so that means we're good there. We survived. Alrighty, now we need to roll an event. So events are over here. For our event, we rolled an 8. So 8 here says, a conspiracy of nobles attempts to recruit you. If you refuse, you gain the conspiracy as an enemy. If you accept, then you roll either deception +8 or persuasion +8. If you fail, then you roll on the mishap table as the conspiracy collapses. If you succeed, though, you gain 1 level of deception, persuade, tactics, or carouse. I'm going to say that we join the conspiracy. So, and then what we'll do is we'll roll a deception. So we get a +1 bonus for that. Ooh. We rolled an 11, which +1 means we actually rolled a 12. Awesome. That's good. Okay. All right. Well, we don't get any bonuses for rolling above the number, but since we did, that means our conspiracy succeeded, or at the very least, we didn't get caught when it collapsed. So, yeah, we get a +1 to, well, let's just put the +1 in deception. I mean, that's what we used for the thing, so it makes sense. That works. Okay. Now we need to roll to see if we advance. At the moment, we are at rank 0, as you can see here. That means we're an administrative assistant. We're going to roll to see if we become a clerk. We rolled a 7, so that means we do advance to become a clerk, which means we also gain admin 1. So if we just finished term 3, finally. So now the question is, we're currently 26. Do we move on to term 4? I'm going to say, yeah, sure. Let's go ahead on to term 4. So we'll be a noble again. We'll roll for our skill. First, we need to decide what table we're going to roll on. Let's roll in the service skills. We don't have a lot of these, so that should be helpful. And we rolled a 5, which means we get investigate. All right. So now we need to roll to see if we survive. Oh, well, yeah, we definitely survived. I rolled an 8. And we only needed a 4, so we definitely survived. That's good. Um, Now we need to roll an event. And for this, we rolled a 9. It says, oops, sorry. It says, your reign is acclaimed as being by all as being fair and wise. Or in the case of a dilettante, you sponge off your family's wealth for a while longer. Gain either a jealous relative or an unhappy subject as an enemy. Gain +2 for your next advancement roll. Okay, sweet. Normally I would create this enemy later, so we're not going to deal with that right now. So now we need to do an advancement roll. Again, remember we got +2 for this. We need to only just roll an education roll of +6. So that's not going to be very hard to do at all. Let's see, we rolled a 7 +2 +1 for our education modifier, which means we actually got a 10. Awesome. So that means we're now at admin 2, which means we are now a supervisor. We don't gain any skills or bonuses for this one, unfortunately, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, now we're now at the end of term 4, which means our character is now 34. Now this means that because we are 34, we have to start rolling on the aging table. As you get older, certain skills will begin to degrade potentially. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Here it is. Aging. Yes. So the effects of aging begin when your traveler hits 34 years old or at the end of your fourth career term. At the end of the fourth term and at the end of every term thereafter, your traveler must roll a 2D on the aging table. You then use the traveler's total number of terms as a negative dice modifier on this roll. So since we're at the end of term 4, we're going to subtract 4. As you can see, if we roll a positive number, nothing happens, right? If we start rolling a negative numbers, we actually get pretty bad. If we roll a 0, then that means we're also losing skills. So we lose physical characteristics, or once we start, all of these affect primarily physical characteristics unless you roll a -8 or worse, in which case you're actually starting to lose mental characteristics. And then if any of your statistics actually hits 0, then you get an aging crisis. You'd have to pay a whole bunch of money for medical care to bump you back up to a 1. Um, and then you automatically fail any qualification rolls. Basically, you get kicked out of your position. You're forced to retire. Yeah, let's go ahead and have our character go ahead and just get out while the going is good. So because we did 2 full terms as a noble, and we were at rank 2, that means we get 3 benefit rolls as we muster out. So I'm gonna do 1 cash and 2 benefits, I think. Well, let's at least start with a cash, and then we'll see how much we get. So, oh, that's the scout, not the noble. There's the noble. So here we go. First, we'll roll on the cash. Oh, our first roll is a 6. Good grief. Okay, so that means we got 100,000 credits. Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely do benefits for the next one. Sorry, my light just died. I'm going to go ahead and finish because we're almost done. I rolled a 5. So let's see. 5 on benefits means, oh, that means we're now a TAS member. For those of you who don't know, a TAS membership is a special thing that you can potentially get in the game. Let me see if there's an explanation for it. It should be down here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah, here we go. So it says, you are now a member of the Travelers Aid Society. Basically, think it's like AAA. This is a private organization that maintains hostels and facilities on all Class A and B spaceports and many parts of human space. Facilities are available for reasonable cost to all members and their guests. Receipt of membership to the Travelers Aid Society as a benefit may be construed as a reward for heroism or extraordinary service to the society rather than an official benefit from your career. Membership is for life and cannot be transferred.
The TAS invests in its membership fees and other incomes. It uses the capital and returns to provide benefits to its members. Every 2 months, it pays dividends in the form of one high passage to each member. This passage may be used, retained, or sold to others. Membership can only be received once per traveler. If you roll this benefit again, instead you get 2 ship shares. So, awesome. So we now have a membership, which is really nice and is really useful. So we'll head back up here. We're going to roll it. We'll do benefit. We got so much money on that one. I'm just going to do benefits one more time. And we rolled a 2, which gives us 2 more ship shares. So now we have 3 ship shares, which was really nice, especially considering how young our character is. Okay, so that means that the actual creation of our character is pretty much done. Again, normally if we'd been making this with a group, we would um, potentially have had 1 or 2 of those events actually line up with other characters in our group. So, for example, maybe the time we were in the conspiracy, maybe another character was involved in that conspiracy based on events that they rolled, or something like that. The only other thing that's left is that normally we would add a skills package that is basically taken by the whole group. Normally, what would happen then is that uh, those skills would be split up amongst the different members of the group, basically to ensure that everybody has the basic skills that your group would need in order to be relatively successful on a basic level at whatever type of play your world is going, your game is going, your campaign is going to be engaging in. So, for example, um, here the investigator skills package. You know, if your campaign is going to be focusing on investigating memories, mysteries, solving crime, stuff like that, then these are all skills that your group is generally going to want to have. Again, as I said, these are going to be split up amongst the different travelers that your group is going to be creating. Um, so you just take turns. Everybody gets one from the list, and you just take turns taking one and crossing it off until all of the skills have been claimed. And then that's the end of that. And then you're ready to play. So that was admittedly more detailed than I had initially intended or expected of the sort of traveler life path system. This is not exactly the same as the original version that I kind of first used when I created my first role playing game character, but it is relatively similar enough that it gives you a basic idea of how this works. And I feel it's slightly more friendly for people who are newer to role playing games. It's a great way to get a good feel for your character. You could definitely really easily start filling out a lot of these other elements here to really help describe your character. Again, as I mentioned previously, links to this particular character style sheet will be included in the description down below, along with, of course, a couple of other links that I find that I think might be useful for anybody trying to potentially start a character in Traveler. Again, I apologize for any mistakes which I made. I am not originally familiar with this particular edition of Traveler, so that it's entirely possible I made some pretty significant mistakes in the course of creating it. So please do not use this as a basic walkthrough. This was more of a conceptual walkthrough as opposed to an actual physical, like this is how you make a character sort of thing like that. So thank you all for joining me again today. Don't forget to go ahead and like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff, and of course check out the links below. And don't forget to rate your itch purchases.
If you would like to show your support for this channel or for the Hessens County blog, in the description down below, you will find links to the channel coffee and also the itch store. Please feel free to take a look, and thank you for your support.